Another NASCAR silly season domino has fallen as Daniel Dye will join Kaulig Racing full-time in the NASCAR Xfinity Series in 2025. What's going on, guys? It's Daniel, and welcome back to the video. As I just said a second ago, we got some pretty major breaking news as it has been officially announced that Daniel Dye will join the NASCAR Xfinity Series full-time in the 2025 season, driving a number 10 car for Kaulig Racing next year. This is the first official driver that will be joining Kaulig Racing for the 2025 season, as the other drivers have not been announced at this point. We do not know for sure if Kaulig is going to be a 3-car organization next year or a 4-car organization in 2025. Now, Daniel Dye has driven part-time for Kaulig Racing in the NASCAR Xfinity Series this year. He's made 7 starts so far, scoring 2 top 10 finishes so far with a 19.9 average finish, which isn't bad by any stretch of imagination, but it's not great either. But he has improved in the Truck Series so far this year. I looked up his stats right before filming this, and Daniel Dye does have 1 top 5 this year, that being a second place finish at National Super Speedway, and 6 top 10s so far this year, has led laps, has gotten a pole or 2 so far this year, and his average finish improved from last year, which was a 20.2, to a 14.9. So he definitely has improved in the Truck Series. There's no denying that. He's one of the most improved drivers from trucks from the previous year going into this year. But at the same token and same time, I don't know if Daniel Dye is fully ready to make the commitment to go into the NASCAR Xfinity Series racing. Again, he's had a couple good runs in the Xfinity Series. There's no denying that. And I feel like driving the 10-car full-time, which he does have sponsorship and funding with it, and of course his father does work at the NASCAR Foundation at Daytona, that does make a little sense right there. Plus, like I said, he's had some solid runs in Xfinity with Kaulig Racing this year. And it does make sense because we know Chris Rice really wanted to bring someone in with funding and sponsorship, especially since now AJ Allmendinger, of course, is going back up to the NASCAR Cup Series next year to drive for the organization full-time. Now, what are my expectations for Daniel Dye going into next year? Well, the Xfinity field is still going to be very, very strong. We obviously know Sheldon Creed and Sam Mayer driving for Haas Factory. Sheldon Creed's driving a 00. Sam Mayer's driving a 41. We know Connor Zillers is going to Junior Motorsports full-time next year. We are expecting that Sammy Smith and Justin Allgaier are going to be back. Brandon Jones and William Swash are probably going to be in Xfinity. So I think Daniel Dye is going to have a shot to potentially make the NASCAR Xfinity Series playoffs, but I think he's going to have a very difficult time because the Xfinity field, despite the fact that drivers, of course, like Cole Custer, like Riley Hurts most likely, like Shane Van Gisbergen, are going to be back up in the NASCAR Cup Series next year, moving up to the Cup Series next year, and AJ, of course, going back up next year as well to Cup Racing in 2025. I think that he is still going to have a very difficult time in making the NASCAR Xfinity playoffs. Now, I do think he's going to get a couple top 5s next year, most likely at Super Speedways, and I do think he gets occasionally some top 10s throughout the year as well. But Kaulig Racing bringing him in is very interesting. I don't think he makes the playoffs most likely. I do think he's going to have a solid year next year in the 2025 year, but I'm not expecting him to really set the world on fire. And that's no disrespect to Daniel Dye. Like I mentioned a minute ago, Daniel Dye has shown a lot of improvement throughout the 2024 season, and maybe he proves me wrong and gets into an Xfinity car and just goes out there, wins races. But Kaulig Racing's Xfinity program this year has really struggled for the most part. Outside of Shane Van Gisbergen, who has 3 wins so far with the organization, they have kind of struggled. AJ Allmendinger has taken a step backwards. I thought he would be a championship threat in Xfinity, and AJ's only had 2 or 3 top 5s, and he's had 10 or 11 top 10s in Xfinity so far this year. But AJ has struggled in a lot of other areas so far this year, but he's going back up the Cup, which I think he has truly earned. So now the other big question that we ask is who's going to be part of this Xfinity program for 2025? We have been hearing that Christian Eckes is a heavy favorite to drive the 16 car for Kaulig Racing next year. I do think Christian Eckes more than likely is going to end up at Kaulig Racing full-time next year. He's been rumored. He basically probably will get announced in the next couple weeks. He does have a little sponsorship, but he doesn't have as much sponsorship and funding as Daniel Dye. But I think Christian Eckes is ready to move out to the NASCAR Xfinity Series full-time. Christian has been doing an exceptional job in the Truck Series this year with 3 wins so far, won the regular season championship, and he's just been very consistent, almost more consistent than Corey Heim has been so far this year, and I think he's putting up some very elite numbers. So I do think that Christian Eckes more likely will be back or moving up to Xfinity. There is a chance that Josh Williams could potentially be back with Kaulig Racing next year. There is a chance and possibility. He does have a little bit of sponsorship and funding with him, but there's also a chance Josh may not be back with the organization next year. And then you got to think about Daniel Hemrick and Ty Dillon. Those are two drivers that have been in the conversations. We've been hearing that Daniel Hemrick could be back in the Xfinity Series with Kaulig Racing next year. We are hearing that Ty Dillon is a candidate for the 31 car. There's also a chance Hemrick could end up in the 31 car next year in Cup, but I also do think that Ty Dillon is a major possibility also of getting behind the wheel of the 31 car next year. It's going to be very interesting to see how Daniel Dye is going to do. I really hope he can prove me wrong and run really well with Kaulig Racing next year. I would like to see Daniel Dye run good, especially if how much Michael Waltrip talks about him, which I think for a lot of people, you're probably tired of hearing Michael Waltrip talk about Daniel Dye or Danny Dye all the time, but I think going and running Xfinity is not a bad decision. I hope he does well next year. I really hope he can step up to the plate and have a strong year in 2025. Now, what does it mean for the rest of the silly season? I already mentioned this. We do know next year, most likely. We already know Haas Factory's lineup with Sam Mayer and Sheldon Creed. We are expecting Sammy Smith and Justin Allgaier, like I mentioned earlier, to be back with Junior Motorsports next year. There is a chance that Carson Quaffle could be back and moving up full-time with JRM next year. There's a really good chance and possibility of that happening. We do know, like I mentioned, that Brandon Jones, Williams Walsh, and Taylor Gray are frontrunners and favorites to be the full lineup for Joe Gibbs Racing, meaning most likely Chandler Smith will be out of JGR at the end of the year. I could see him being a candidate for the 36 car for Front Row Motorsports, but also there is a chance he'd go to Junior Motorsports or a team like that. There's been other drivers in the rumor mills at points like Haley Deegan, but Haley Deegan doesn't have a ride for next year. There's been rumors now of Harris Suburban maybe going to AM Racing for the 2025 season recently. So there's a lot of major silly season dominoes that are still expected to fall. I do think a lot of things are about to begin going in place. And the other big question is, what happens for McAnally Hilgeman in the Truck Series? Well, I think Corey LaJoie could end up in one of these rides. Also, Andres Perez-Lalor could end up in one of these seats next year in trucks. Because, again, I do think they're going to have an all-new lineup at the McAnally Hilgeman team in 2025. I do hope, like I said, though, Daniel Dye can have a solid year with Kaulig Racing for 2025 because I want to see that team run good again. Kaulig was one of the top teams in 2021, but they haven't been that elite really since. I know AJ had a solid year in 2022, but he didn't set the world on fire. And they only had a really good year last year because Kyle Larson got the win at Darlington for them, and AJ got a couple Xfinity Series wins. So I really hope this team in 2025 can really do well, and hopefully Daniel Dye can have a solid season with Kaulig Racing in 2025 with the team. So, that is going to today's special breaking news episode on Daniel Dye. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, notifications on, so if I win a video, it does go live on my channel. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and support my Patreon as well. Link in the description below that, and comment your thoughts below on today's episode. How do you think Daniel Dye is going to perform at Kaulig Racing in 2025? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Who do you think ends up in McAnally Hilgeman? Who do you think ends up in the rest of the Kaulig seats? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Later today, we'll have reactions to Cup Series qualifying from Daytona. We're going to have the Xfinity review as well if the weather holds off, and we'll have a Shane Van Gisbergen video most likely dropping. Then tomorrow, we're going to have the starting lineup for the Coke Zero Sugar 400. We'll have the race review for Coke Zero Sugar 400 and maybe SVG video once again. Then on Sunday, we're going to have the NASCAR Truck Series race review from Milwaukee as they begin their playoffs. We'll talk about drivers like Bo Wells, Carl Edwards, Kurt Busch, you name it, all throughout the week. Same with Kyle Busch and Kyle Larson as well throughout the week as well. Got a lot of great content dropping as we get you guys set up for the start of the Truck Playoffs and get closer to the Cup Series Playoffs as well. And we also got Stellar 500 next week, which is going to be really fun and exciting. So anyways, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's episode, and I'll see you guys next time for more great, awesome NASCAR content and other motorsports content on the channel like this. Take care, everybody.